Ndị be anyị ndewonu. Ọ bụ Ada Igbo na-ekwu na Igbo Media. N'Igbo Media, anyị na-ewetara unu ọtụtụ ozi gbasara ihe na-emegasị na Biafra Land, n'ala Igbo na mba ndị ọzọ. N'ụbọchị nke taata, o nwere ihe bịara n'iru akwụkwọ anyị nke anyị ga-agụpụtara unu n'ụbọchị taa. Anyị gụpụtachaa ya, unu egee ya ka ọha n'uju. Ị ga-esie ya, ị drọpụọla your comment, like kwa this our video and gbasakwa ya ka o ruo ụmụnna anyị n'ebe dị iche iche arụ. Ozi e wetara ntata si n'aka otu nwanne anyị nwoke, a Biafra activist. Dịka o si wetara anyị ozi ya n'iru akwụkwọ, ọ dere sị, "Good news to Biafra nation. Hear what world media says concerning Nnamdi Kanu upcoming court case." Ya bụ ozi ka anyị ji bịa tata na Igbo Media. Ị ga-esi ya bụ ozi, gbaa mbọ gwa anyị iche ma mekwa ka ozi arụtụ ụmụnna anyị n'ebe dị iche iche aka. Ngwa gere ya ka ọha n'uju.
Take it easy. Well, all right. Well, good morning to you viewers. Let's begin what's trending. The leader of the indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, caused a frenzy at the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday after his bail request was denied. Kanu has been in detention over alleged treasonable felony while reacting to the ruling. Kanu, who was visibly angry, accused the federal government of violating the Constitution and other international treaties following his forceful rendition to Nigeria. He also called the Prosecution Council, Boyega Awomolo, a terrorist for conducting a trial in violation of the international treaty. Let's take a look.
Anybody standing in trial or coming to try me is a terrorist. That's what their law says. Section what me?
As simple as that.
Section 2, subsection 3F of Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. That's what it says. Any court considered to try me is committing an act of terrorism.
Yes.
It's very clear. You cannot violate a treaty that Nigeria entered into and then come to try that very person. Is not done anywhere in the world. So you must be aware of that. So that is why there is all these ridiculous delays. That is what Supreme Court said. I did not jump bail. My home was invaded. They came to kill me and I survived. They came to Kenya to kidnap me, brought me back to this country and seeking to try me, which the law says cannot happen. You cannot violate a treaty that Nigeria entered into and then hope to stand on that illegality to conduct a trial. Is not done anywhere in the world. And it happened in my case. Nobody has, there's no exception. No exception whatsoever. That's what the law says. Section 12 of the Constitution, what does it say? Any treaty ratified by Nigeria becomes law. It's law. You cannot change it. It doesn't matter what they do. All these shenanigans is just pure rubbish. You never stand.
All right, Rufai, I mean, Dr. Abati, I would have, presented that part of the Constitution for him to analyze at this point. But, it's been all over social media that Nnamdi Kanu has now called a federal government, a lawyer, a terrorist. Let me just take some tweets. Let me take this one particular tweet. This person wrote, "Everyone might not have agreed with Kanu, but it is very obvious that the federal government is only trying to incarcerate him unlawfully for asking for a legitimate right to self-determination after filing some fictitious charges like terrorism, etc. against him. The court acquitted and discharged him of all charges. Now, instead of obeying the court order, Buhari keeps him unlawfully for the next administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to continue illegally detaining him since his arrest and unlawful detention. They don't even grant him access to change of clothes. This is pure injustice. They don't want to release him, nor do they wish to grant him bail. And tomorrow they'll tell us there's a rule of law in Nigeria. Injustice for one is injustice for all." I mean, I believe that we have actually dealt with the conversation about his change of clothes and even his health. I believe that they asked the DSS to make sure that, he's allowed change of clothes, he's allowed to his attorneys, he's allowed to, medical attention and all of that. But I don't know what your thoughts are, Rufai, on, his accusations here. I mean, this is not the first time we've heard Kanu speak. I believe just in recent times he's spoken about twice now. But, I think that it is also good to hear from him. I mean, even hearing that he's talking about the fact that they tried to kill him and that he didn't jump bail.
Okay, so there are many parts to this Kanu matter. We all remember what happened, the episode, how he left the country. I said his home was invaded and he left the country, was out He kept on, making statements, and all of a sudden, we all see how he was bundled back in the Buhari style from Kenya. And for watchers of history, we all remember that this is not the first time Buhari is going to do such a thing, and it doesn't make it right. He did that also in the 80s. We remember when somebody was almost put in a crate back to this country before that was scuttled. It's finally back here. He's gone through the legal process. There's been a ruling as regards that. Then the federal government goes back again to court to say, he can do this, he can do that, he can job here. So the trial is still going on. For me, the federal government has a way of handling issues of dissent, which is two things. The incumbent president will say, it's not my problem, let me kick the can down the road to the next president. It was done. I think if you remember the case of Asari Dokuba and all of that. But some have the willingness to say, okay, let me even listen to the other part and make peace reign. I'm probably sure President Buhari looked and said, okay, we'll kick it down the road. But you see, the question I want to ask this morning is, any Nigerian truly should come out to tell me that there's been no representative of any ethnic group that has asked to leave this union. Among the three major ethnic groups, they've all asked to leave this union at one point or the other.
Now everyone has a right to self-determination.
With extension to the Ijaws. We remember Isaac Adakaboro in the 60s. Because of unfairness. We remember Sunday Igboho recently. We remember how some of this military top brass were screaming Araba after that interregnum when Agu Ironsi was killed. That long weekend when Nigeria had no leader before Yakubu Gowon took over. So all of us had screamed that we are not happy about the way this unit called Nigeria is favoring us. But the question is, should we throw the baby away with the bathwater as regards our screams? No. And that's why I've always said, President Tinubu will have to look for a solution to the Nnamdi Kanu debacle. He still has another 3-4 years. I know he doesn't want to deal with it now. It's not a thing he can kick down the road, like Buhari did. Also, we need to be able to get trade-offs. We want a strong, united nation, yes, as Nigerians, but also we want a nation that listens to other parts. We can talk legalese from today to tomorrow. It's not going to solve the problem. It's a political solution that will solve the problem. Right. The last time we were close to a political solution, Igbo elders went to Buhari. He said he had heard, he didn't do anything about it. At this point in time, there needs to be a solution. Yeah. Once and for all. Political solution. Political solution.
Rule of law. I mean, your thoughts are on this conversation, whether or not, he's accurate in describing his detention as unlawful, and the federal government lawyer describing him as a terrorist at this point.
So he appeared before the Federal High Court, and that's Justice Binta Nyako's court. Yes. And by the way, she's mentioned that his lawyers shouldn't file before her, that instead they should proceed to the Court of Appeal. Instead, if they did come back to her again, there would be an abuse of judicial process, a waste of her time, lightly put. Now, I think it's a stretch of the word terrorism to accuse Chief Awomolo, who is on the government side in terms of the prosecutor, as a terrorist for not adhering to treaties signed by Nigeria. But I can also understand, because this case is now seeming to be like, it is appearing to be as if on the federal government side, they are not adhering to the rule of law, and that is his agitation. Yes. And this is what would also be provocative, whether you like it or not. Earlier on today, we're talking about how no matter how people have their people who are loyal to them, no matter, whichever way you view them, and this is unnecessarily inciting people to him beginning to get sympathizers. Yeah. If you want to take a man to court, you want to charge him then do it. And let him go through the process of the court, and let it not seem as if you are deliberately trying to keep him in detention. The reason for the refusal of his application of bail, and this time by the judge, was because he had jumped bail in 2017 when she had given him bail, when he had gone on bail. But beyond that is how they have stretched out and just elongated this case without a seeming end to it, and just keeping him in detention with him not having full course to his rights. This is where the real issue is. And during campaign season, President Bola Ahmed Ahmed Tinubu was asked as to what he would do about the Nnamdi Kanu situation, especially because he kept talking about how he would be a president who respected and adhered to the tenets of the rule of law. So in the interest of fairness and in adherence to the rule of law, it's not in personal interest or how a particular administration feels personally about a situation. At all points, the president must be seen to defend the rule of law, and he should not be partial to any person or institution. This is the bane of that. This is the topic of conversation. This is a critical factor with the Nnamdi Kanu situation. Whether he's guilty or not, let him go through the rule of law. Let the law apply to him. It should not be discriminatory. It should not be. No one should have preferential treatment when it comes to the rule of law. This is the real situation on ground.
Well, all right. We'll take another story. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has faulted travel restrictions for African investors traveling across the African continent. Dangote spoke at the Africa CEO Forum Annual Summit in Kigali, Rwanda, stating that he has to apply for 35 different visas on his Nigerian passport to travel within Africa. Meanwhile, a French passport does not need 35 visas to gain access to African countries. Well, let's take a look before we come back for a discussion.
Mr. Dangote, you have previously complained about the difficulty of traveling on a Nigerian passport across the continent. Has it become easier?
Even an hour ago, I complained to President Kagame.
At least you can come here visa-free.
No, here is a best example, but I told him that, yes, as an investor, as somebody who really wants to make Africa great, I have to now apply 35 different visas on my passport. And I told Mr. President, I said, Mr. President, I really don't have the time to go and be dropping my passports in embassies to get a visa. But you see, the most annoying thing is that, yes, if you are treating everybody the same, then I can understand. You know, I can assure you, Patrick doesn't need 35 visas.
You don't need 35 visas on a French passport compared to a Nigerian passport.
35 visas on French passport.
No.
But, you know, so which means you have a freer movement than myself in Africa.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think this is such a huge conversation to have, Rufai Ayo. It reminds me of our chairman, Prince Nduka Obaigbena's conversation during the All Africa's Leaders Summit, where he charged leaders of African countries to remove restriction, you know, for Africans traveling within Africa to promote intra-trade and to promote development. I think Alhaji Aliko Dangote's statement here is quite apt, and I think even just calling out the mere fact that a French passport, I mean, a French citizen or a French investor has freer access than an African needs to be looked into.
We know how difficult it is to travel within Africa. So much so, and there's a country that are very notorious. I can mention Mauritius. Should I go ahead? Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know how difficult it is to go within this country. That's why Africa is now trying to get passport of the Caribbean to be able to fly within Africa. It is that bad. And I keep asking, what are the goals of the Organization of African Unity? That the likes of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was preaching in the 60s, let us come together. And you know, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was right. He said the problem and the challenge will be, will Africans truly unite? Today, we've set up AFCTA now. How easy it is to be able to bring about trade. That's why you see we're so quick to go trade with other parts of the world. Is it only visa? Have you tried inter-Africa travel, connectivity? Try going to ordinary Senegal there. That's why you see a return ticket to Senegal is more than a return ticket to London. It's about 1 million. More than a return ticket to London. So even across Africa, we can't connect effectively. To sell his product in Benin Republic is a big problem. We also have language divisions. And this is Benin Republic that we are both part of ECOWAS. Mm-hmm. The sad reality is that despite the fact that he said it, it's still happening. But we too share the blame in Nigeria. Because as it is difficult for us to go to other African countries, it's also difficult for Africans to come into Nigeria.
Yes.
Look at, it was Larry Madowo that was speaking about how he needs to pay over $200 to be able to get into Nigeria consistently.
Ngwano dalo nene no umunnem dikun sinesera ni bo media Gịnị ka unu nwere ikwu na nkọwa nke unu gbasịta maka ihe unu nọ n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa? Gwa ya ife iche n'ụdị nke gị, deela ya n'akara kọmentị ka mara ihe i chere, ma chetakwa tụsa ya bụ ozi ka o wereta ụmụnne anyị ndị ọzọ ntị. Ndewonu ụmụnne m, ka emesịanụ.